Just stay on her, and that it's a new match. Playing Jelena, that 6-0 set quite literally means nothing. Which that's tennis in general because there's 2 out of 3, but I feel like that means even more nothing against her. And yeah, honestly, I wouldn't lie. I am surprised by not I guess the result, but how the match went today. But I'm happy with how I was able to stay in it.
Okay, congratulations. We have a big room. One question. Name and affiliation. Please mute your cell phones. Brian.
Brian Lewis, New York Post. You talked about how you were surprised a little bit, maybe how the result was going. I'm curious whether you noticed, and she kind of runs hot and cold anyway as a player, were you sensing her frustration either with the heat and conditions or just with her inability to hit the way she normally would?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, anybody time you beat someone 6-0, especially her, there's obviously, I noticed her timing or something wasn't working. But I've also played her twice. This was the third time. And it was a similar way in Australia where I went up a break in the first set and then lost that set. So today when I went up to break, I was just trying to tell myself to stay on her. And, I don't know if the heat really played a factor or not because the match was, short. I do think if it was a longer match, I think it would have favored me even more. But, yeah, I definitely could tell that she was a little bit frustrated with her performance today.
Right. Matt.
Hey, Coco. Matt Futterman from New York Times. Deepest run you've had at a Grand Slam since Paris last year, and obviously deepest run here. What did you learn from that experience in Paris last year in terms of managing the situation, especially the attention and the emotions and your energy heading into these final few days, and how will you put that to effect in this experience, do you think?
I learned that there's still a lot of tennis left to play, and it's a long match and a long tournament, and even though the semifinals by theory, if you want to win, there's 2 matches left, but you can't think like that. I'm still in the mindset that I'm in the beginning of the tournament. I think that's what I've learned, in the past of being in quarterfinals. Before I would think, close to the end, but right now I have the mentality that I told myself I still have another 2 weeks to play. So that's where my mind is at. And then obviously when it's over, it's over. But right now I'm just saying another 2 weeks. And also I think what's helping is playing from DC to Montreal to Cincinnati. That was a long type of swing. So I think doing well in those tournaments built my mental endurance. I always had the physical endurance, but it built my mental endurance. So right now I feel emotionally fresh, which I think was the problem in the past in Grand Slams. I would emotionally be drained, but obviously I'm physically fresh and emotionally fresh. And I think that just came from experience. And I think this is one of the harder runs I've had to the quarterfinal stage. Obviously never got to the semis, but I don't know. I just feel so fresh, to be honest. And I don't know if it's because I've been tricking myself or maybe this is over, I'm going to hit a wall, but I'm really proud of how I'm able to get through these matches.
Dan.
Hey, Coco. Dan Walton, USA Today. How would you describe the role your parents are playing now in this new team configuration, and how much of an adjustment is it for you guys as a family when you bring new people in and maybe their roles are changing?
Yeah, I think my parents have continued to be my advocates. And when you're working with a team that you just met, well, now they know me well, but I guess in the beginning, my parents would have to explain to them, what works with me, what doesn't. And, I have to explain I'm still learning to speak up and say things that I don't like and do like. I'm just, from being coached my whole life, being young, I've just been used to saying yes, yes, yes. And even in situations where I wanted to say no. But the more I think that I'm having this new environment, the more I've been comfortable with communicating with my team. And then my parents, they're just really my support system. They're helping me remember, my clothes and everything. My dad is still sending me scouting reports for every match. But my mom is more so, just being mom, and my dad just being dad, other than the scouting report part.
Howard.
Hi, Coco. Howard Fendrich with the Associated Press. You're the first American teenager to get to the semifinals here since Serena Williams in 2001. Just wondering, when you hear your name in a sentence with hers and your accomplishments begin to add up. What does that mean to you?
Oh, it means a lot to me. I mean, being in any sentence with her is great. I mean, she's the greatest player of all time, and I'm nothing close to that yet. So I'm just really honored to be in the same sentence as her. It's something that I'm used to a lot. So, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, like that's, I'm shocked. But I feel like it's a lot of the stats have aligned with her, and people find new things to think about. I was the first teenager in the quarters and now semis, so I'm guessing if I win, they're going to be like finals. So it's just going to keep going. But like I said, I never take it for granted. She's my idol, and I think if you told me when I was younger that I would be in these same like stat lines as her, I would freak out. So I'm still trying not to think about it a lot because I don't want to get my head big or add pressure, but it is a cool moment to have that stat alongside her.
Okay. Court?
Coco, congrats. Just how you talked about feeling emotionally and physically fresh. How surprised are you that you have been able to do what you have since DC, but also having as much fun as you have had? Because you've been a lot more kind of open with crowds and more seemingly accepting of the energy and what all this brings.
Yeah, honestly, I wish I embraced, the fun parts a little bit sooner. I think, just sometimes the way the structure, not even just the tour, just like sports in general, you feel like you have to be, especially individual sports, like you don't have, the one teammate that always is making jokes or the one teammate that maybe messes up at the wrong moment where you can laugh at. So it's really just you. And I feel like now I'm just being all of those types of teammates for myself and I'm enjoying it. So I do wish, I don't know, I thought that to play and win, you had to be ultra serious and ultra focused, which that is true, but also you still have to enjoy it. And I think that's what's been the change, is that I'm having more fun. And honestly, the first meeting that I had with Brad before I started coaching, he started coaching with me. One of the first things he said is like, you need to smile more. And it wasn't really anything with my game or anything. So, and I really took that. And when he said that, I was a little bit surprised. And then I started to think and I was like, yeah, I do. So I think that's something that I'm trying to work on and continuing to do. And obviously, I think it's helping my results.
David?
David Waldstein, New York Times. Coco, what were your thoughts when you saw that Iga lost?
I was shocked, to be honest, because I saw the, I'm not going to get into that, but we can't watch ESPN in our hotel. I saw the scoreline. I didn't see the match because usually I was getting treatment while it was going on. I saw that she won the first set, and then I just went to call my friend, and then we were talking on the phone, and then around like midnight was when I was going to sleep. And yeah, I saw that she, Ostapenko won. I was, shocked. I mean, also not shocked because I know the level that Jelena could bring to the game, but also, she's the number one player in the world. So I was, and all my interviews, people were like, "You're gonna play Iga," and I was like, they still have to play. So I think almost in my head that just because of that, I had myself that I was gonna play her. But that's why, you can never pay attention to what journalists say sometimes. No offense to you guys, but they were making the matchup already. So I was shocked. But I knew that, regardless, I was going to have to go out there and play tennis, regardless if I was playing her or Jelena today.
Ava? Okay, Bill.
Hey, Bill Roden, ESPN Landscape. You talked about building mental endurance. Because what's that process? I mean, I wish you could bottle it and sell it. But what's the process of building mental endurance?
I think it's unique to every person, and I think it comes with trial and error. And I think, what I learned about myself is that in these moments that I should not put so much pressure in these matches, because when you're playing these tournaments, the pressure is always on. Like, they're so intense and you always want to win. And I think for me, I just learned how to cope with that better the more I've reached this level. And you have some people who kind of know how to do it already when they come on tour, and some who need to learn. And I think that's just part of life and just part of learning. And I think that's why sometimes, someone has a great result, like when they come out the gates, and then it's tough to back it up because you just never been in this position before. So I think the more that I've gotten in this position, the more I've just been able to learn how to handle it.
Okay, Willie?
Willie Weinbaum from ESPN. Congratulations,
Thanks.
Coco. If you wouldn't mind, can you give kind of the state of your game right now and then looking ahead to each potential opponent as an individual?
Yeah, I mean, today was the best match I played for sure. And even though it wasn't how I like to play, I mean, against her, it's like so hard to be the aggressor sometimes. So I think that like the way decision making that I'm making is probably the best that I've had. And I feel really confident in all my strokes. Playing Carolina, I obviously played her in Cincinnati, and I do think, and she said that she was physically struggling in that match, so I don't think that would be the case again if I were to play her, just because there is a day in between. So, I'm going to approach it differently, honestly. And then playing Serrana, yeah, I played her, I think, a couple years ago in Australia, but, I mean, that means nothing. That was so long ago. She's obviously having a great tournament, and I've always said she's a great player. She doesn't surprise me when she wins matches against the higher ranked players because she has a great game. She's a good baseliner. She can get a lot of balls back, and she can be really aggressive. So I haven't thought about the game plan for either one, to be honest, yet. So I don't know that, but I know that I'm just going to go out there and focus on my side of the court as I've been doing the whole tournament.
Bondi.
Stefan Bondi, New York Daily News. Delaney was just in here saying that having played Sunday night and then having this quick turnover to a new match really messed her up, put her at disadvantage. In your experience, is that a valid gripe? Does that really put you at a disadvantage?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a valid thing. I remember in Montreal, I had to play Marquetta and we finished around 11, and then played the next day at 1 or 2. Luckily, the match before us went long, but, I still am at the site and everything. I do think with the day in between, it does help a little bit. But also, I mean, I don't know. The Grand Slam tournaments are tough. She had to play the second night match, so I don't know what time she practiced the next day, but it's definitely a different feeling. I mean, I had doubles yesterday, and I have doubles tomorrow, so I get the feeling in the way of playing back to back to back. And yeah, honestly, yesterday was a concern of mine when I found out I was playing first. Hoping that, it was unfortunate Jess lost, but, she lost fast. And then obviously they put us on ash, so we didn't have to worry about the rain or anything. So yeah, I mean, it definitely plays a factor, maybe more so mentally than physically, because I think physically you have the day in between, but mentally it's, these days go by so fast. So I definitely can understand that point of view for sure.
Bill.
Congrats. Bill Simons, Inside Tennis. You were talking a little bit about your family before, but one of the most interesting members of your family is your grandmother. I remember seeing her up in the stands just cheering you on, kind of with a spirit like no other. You have a great spirit. What did she teach you about life? What did you gain from her? Can you talk about her?
Yeah, I think she's probably the sole or one of the main reasons why I use my platform the way that I do, and why I feel so comfortable speaking out. For those who don't know, she was the first Black person to go to, it was then called Seacrest High School. She was chosen to integrate that high school, and she had to deal with a lot of stuff, anytime. I think that happened 6 months after Ruby Bridges did her integration. So, she had to deal with a lot of things, racial injustice, and her leading the way that she is and being so kind to everyone, regardless of their background, is something that I take inspiration from. And that's why I always say I like to know everybody's perspective. Whether I agree with it or not, it's important to know everybody's perspective, because some people are raised in a certain environment and they don't know any other way. So I think she always taught me to approach every situation with kindness and understanding. And I think for her to go through what she did during that time is something that I think what I do, putting out a tweet or saying a speech is so easy compared to that. So that's why I have no problem doing the things that I do. And always reminds me that I'm a person first, but instead of an athlete.
Okay, we have time for 2 more. Richard and then Meredith.
Richard Osborne, USOpen.org. Congrats on the win.
Thanks.
We've been watching you for the most part now since you were 15. And for someone who hasn't, what's it like to grow up in the public eye when everybody sort of hears everything you say, sees your mistakes, sees everything, even away from the court? What's that experience like?
I would say it's definitely weird. I mean, when I put my scale onto other people, I don't view it as big. I don't know, some of the celebrity kids and stuff who have paparazzi everywhere, and that's crazy. So I don't, in my perspective, I think in the sports, it can be difficult sometimes, because I think, you know, people do forget that you are a person. So they see you as an athlete and they're rooting for their favorite person. And when you lose, they say all types of things about you. And I think it's important that you really know yourself, because it's very easy to feed into what you should and what you shouldn't do when everybody's giving their opinion. So I think for the most part, I've done well with it. I think it's because of my family. They've always kept me grounded and, you know, always said the importance of my self-worth, because sometimes you can lose your sense of self in this environment, going from country to country, you know, social media, all that. And I think that they really help me embrace it instead of kind of shy away from it. So it's something that is weird and it's different. And I always say, like, I don't know, like, it's just strange that in that way, because when I was a kid, I just thought about winning tournaments. I don't know why I never imagined, the dreams never came with the people in the stands or the autographs. That was never in the dreams. It was just like the trophy. So it's just, all this is very weird. And I never, prepared myself for it. But in hindsight, I think the amount of people that I've met doing this and the amount of people that come up to me just saying nice things and saying I helped them makes it all worth it. And I will always continue to embrace the crowd and embrace the people, because the conversations that I've had really make me feel like I've done well in this life so far.
Meredith, final question.
Meredith Cash from Insider. Coco, you've said that, you know, finding this new mentality and finding joy on the court has helped you so much in this tournament and in this run this summer. I'm curious, you know, lots of players have tried to do that. How do you do that so fast? How do you take the pressure off of your shoulders and actually find that joy in practice?
I think it's just putting my life into perspective. I mean, at first I used to think negative things like, why is this so much pressure? Why is this so hard? Blah, blah, blah. And I realized that this isn't, like, in a way it's pressure, but it's not. I mean, there's people struggling to feed their families. There's people who don't know when their next meal is going to come from. There's people who have to pay their bills, and that's real pressure. That's real hardship. That's real life. And I'm in a very privileged position. I'm getting paid to do what I love and getting support to do what I love. And that's something that I don't take for granted. So really, I just put my life into perspective. And especially in New York, I just feel like you see that perspective a lot more, especially compared to where I live. And I'm just like, I mean, I have a lucky life, and so I should enjoy it. I know there's millions of people who probably want to be in this position that I am now. So instead of saying why this, why that, I should just be like, you know, why not me? Why am I not enjoying this? I should. And yeah, I just told myself, man, I should enjoy this. I'm having so much fun doing it, and I should not think about the results and think about this. I'm very a lucky life, and I'm so blessed, and I don't want to take it for granted. So that's the reason why I think it's just putting my life in perspective and realizing how grateful and blessed I am.